Well, throughout this tournament, Rajasthan have been the setting team. Hyderabad have been the chasing team. Pretty consistent. In fact, just one time have Rajasthan chased. They failed to get up, but every one of their victories has come batting first. Many occasions with big totals. Today, with a total that was, well, I wouldn't say subpar, because Faf du Plessis suggested 130 could have been par. 144, thanks to Riyan Parag, was made to look a little bit better. And Bangalore, well, they just kept losing wickets. Ever since they lost the cream of their batting, the rest of it were not able to do anything. 115 all out in 19.3. A 29-run victory margin is huge when you're chasing 145. I'm joined on Cricbuzz Live to sort of dissect both the team's efforts. One good, one bad. Simon Doull, Harsha Bhogle join me. Let's talk about Rajasthan first. As a team who have been consistently winning by batting first, they've now found a way to do it, even with not too many on the board.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, we talked at half time and again in the com box. It felt like a total that was going to be competitive, having seen the surface, having seen the way the bowlers bowled on it. And I think Faf du Plessis has just mentioned at the interview there at the end that he felt that catch cost them 20-odd runs, and it certainly did, the catch that Hasaranga dropped. And, chasing 120, 125 on that surface, RCB might get home. I know people will say, well, they got bowled out for 119. How could they get home? But that, might have been a slightly different story if they're chasing 120, 125. So I thought the way that Rajasthan managed to get to 144, courtesy of Riyan Parag, he summed things up beautifully. He found some power at the back end after that little element of luck with the dropped catch. But, we've seen plenty of those. And the way he actually carried that batting innings was superb tonight. So a lot of credit to him. And then the bowlers just finished things off. It was brilliant.
Yeah, Harsha, I mean, your assessment there, because so much of it has been about Butler and some of the other big, powerful batters. Today, none of them really did the job. The one man who had not done the job for them did get them up to 144, but it was a bowler's victory.
My gut feel is that this is a win that RCB will cherish enormously for the precise reason that you said, that they almost needed Butler to fail and win just to get the confidence that we can do that. The umbrella's gone. We have no protection. Now can we find our way to shelter? And they did. I think this will hurt RCB even more than the 68 all out. Because 68 all out, you can say there was just a gale. We got caught in a gale. Before we knew what was happening, it was all over. That happens once every couple of years for every team. But this one, I think, might hurt. I'm actually very interested in what Faf said about 130 being a par score. He said it was two-paced. When we say two-paced, we normally think one is stopping. I wonder when he said two-paced, whether one was going too much, especially the Maxwell dismissal, Dooley. If you see the Maxwell dismissal, it's almost a test match dismissal, where the ball zipped off and taken the edge and caught at slip. So I wonder when he said two-paced, whether it was zipping along too much, the odd ball.
Yeah, possibly. The Maxwell, I mean, it's a pretty ordinary shot too, wasn't it? I mean, it's not a shot that we'd like I don't think Glenn Maxwell would like to watch too often. Very first ball, hadn't really seen much of Kuldeep Sen, and he gets a short, wide one. If he'd gone to cut it, I'd have maybe understood. Got a top edge over top. I think that might have worked out better, but he sort of tried to play an expensive back foot drive, and he'll be disappointed with that, I'm sure. And I don't know. There were certainly a few balls that zipped through quite quickly. I don't know that it was two-paced. I think when Deep did the pitch report, he said it was quite tufty grass. He thought the spinners might play a role, but it was more the seamers, wasn't it, that really did the damage.
But again, to add to your point, Harsha, you said that the umbrella had gone when it came to the batting part of the innings. Joss Butler didn't score, neither did Hetmeyer. Sanju Samson didn't last long enough, and Parag got them out of trouble. In the bowling innings, while Ashwin bowled beautifully, it wasn't a wicket riot for Chahal. It wasn't exactly Prasidh Krishna blowing them away, despite his, and rather Trent Bolt, not Trent Bolt. So again, they found a Parag in Kuldeep Sen.
4 for 20 is fantastic, and he's got, as Ravi might say, he's got serious gas. He does let it rip, and we're seeing these young bowlers coming from all parts. Kuldeep Sen is from Rewa. Arshdeep Singh is from Guna in Madhya Pradesh. They're coming from everywhere. The other day, Mukesh Chowdhury is from Bhilwara. But this guy's got something about him. And I think you've got to look at that Rajasthan Royals side, because they've assembled a really good bowling side. and they're able to defend scores like these. And it's just telling me, much to my great joy, that bowlers are controlling this tournament. For a long time, we thought the IPL was a batsman's tournament. So irrespective of what the other team did, you went and scored more. Today's match was very, very, very interesting. I think Rajasthan Royals might well look back and say this was one of our most enjoyable wins.
And when they talk about fast bowlers, Dooley, obviously Umran Malik has been hogging the headlines just because he's got a bit of swag and 150 plus. But the first ball of Kuldeep Sen's spell, his warm-up delivery, was 147.3 outside the off-stump to du Plessis.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, he's got good height as well. Even the bouncer to Hasaranga late in the piece, he uses the bouncer well. I mentioned to you that I got told about him when he was warming up and not playing in a very early game by Rohan Gavaskar. And it's just nice. It's nice to see young Indian pace bowlers, and not just one or two. Mukesh Chaudhary, as Harsha mentioned, I was impressed with Vaibhav Arora. He's obviously been left out of the Punjab team the last game, but there's quite a number of these young men, not only bowlers but batters, coming through, and you're seeing them develop. And as Harsha mentioned, from sort of varying parts of the country too. They're not just coming from the Mumbais or the Kolkatas or the Bangalores or the Delhis. They're coming from various parts of the countries, which is really good to see. And that's what this tournament does. It makes you want to play cricket at the highest level. You grow up now. These kids have grown up with this tournament now for 15 years, 14 years, is it? 15. I don't know. How many seasons have we been going?
It's the 15th. It's 14 years completed,
isn't it? It's the 15th. But they've grown up with this for 14 years, and now they want to be IPL players. These kids want to play IPL, and the sooner that we get the women's version as well, and young girls growing up get to watch the women's IPL and want to play cricket and want to play IPL cricket as well, it can only be good things. So, I'm loving it. I love what I've seen from some of the batters that have come through. I particularly enjoy watching the bowlers coming through, especially when they're bowling quick. And Kuldeep Sen was on show tonight. He's going to have bad games because he's wanting to bowl quick. He's going to have good games, and I think it's a really good sign for Indian cricket moving forward.
Gautam, did you notice that of all the pace bowlers, there's Prasidh Krishna, there's Kuldeep Sen, there's Umran Malik, which was the name that Dooley took? Vaibhav Arora. Why? Think why. Vaibhav Arora swinging 130, 132, swing both ways, go back early 90s. Somebody in New Zealand coming, swinging the ball around that pace. So,
it was the only reason.
And don't get...
Yeah, but the small towns that Harsha mentioned, for everyone who wants a geography lesson, even if you go, it's not, I think we've gone one step beyond saying not Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai or Hyderabad. These are not even tier 2 towns. They are little parts of the country that many kids don't even know about. And that's where you're getting this talent from, which I think is fabulous, Harsha.
Absolutely. And don't even get me started on the women's IPL. We've lost 2 years already. Don't even get me started there. Within 3 years of the women's IPL, you'll just start seeing these young girls from everywhere coming through and playing breathtaking cricket. So if this is any indicator of where the players are coming from, it tells you that talent is completely independent of geography. You will find talent in Papua New Guinea. You will find talent in Mount Maunganui. You will find talent in a remote corner of South Africa. Somewhere talent is not partial to geography. Similarly, I'm convinced that when the women's IPL starts, we'll get a lot more. But we'll keep going for a couple of hours if we talk about the women's IPL.
Yeah, but let's not forget, yes, these lovely young men from all these remote parts. But let's also talk about a guy from Chennai who's come from a very different kind of background. Who's won a part of our school quiz, Harsha, a few years ago, which we didn't know about.
Almost wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough to be picked. Almost wasn't good enough to be picked.
Yeah, well, we're talking Ravichandran Ashwin. Dooley, you weren't around those days. We used to see that. And he was this proper, good old public school, if you like to call it that. And there's Ravichandran Ashwin, 3 wickets for 17. The other day, you were talking him up when he was sort of helping Chahal. Today, he sort of took centre stage at that point.
Yeah, he does. And look, he's really got great control of this carom ball. And I think that's the one weapon he's using more often than not to the right-handed batters. He did bowl a few more off spinners or regular off spinners tonight to the right-handers, but he uses that carom ball beautifully, and he's he's jumping wide of the crease. He's just landing it in the areas that he needs to land it in. He did a good job at 3 tonight as well. Don't forget that. He came out. What did he get? 19 off 7. So he gave the innings just a little bit of perhaps what it needed tonight. So he's just a very clever cricketer, Ash. I mean, we all know that. We know how much he thinks about the game, eats, breathes, and sleeps the game. And it's just nice to see him doing well. It's nice to see him enjoying his cricket, and that combination, that spin combination, being backed up beautifully by Prasidh Krishna and Trent Boult, and tonight, Kuldeep Sen. It's as I keep saying, this is the first time in a long, long time that I can see Rajasthan having a dead set pace bowling attack and a quality spin bowling attack, and they just haven't had it before. They're one little issue, and they had Daryl Mitchell for 1 over tonight, none for 7. The one little issue is, what are they getting out of that 4th overseas? That's probably the only little part that they're missing. They were missing Riyan Parag. I think he's shown us tonight that he's got something about him. I wasn't sure. I wasn't convinced, but it's a really, really top quality performance from him tonight. The catches and the runs, really, really good to see him, bounce out of what hasn't been a great run for him and put on a top performance tonight. But that overseas player, Harsha, they've tried, what have they tried? They've tried Neesham, they've tried Coulter-Nile, they've tried Obed McCoy, they've tried Russie at 3, and now they've tried Mitchell. So they just haven't. It's the one cog, I guess, now that Parag has got runs tonight. It may be the one cog that they're just sort of fighting with a little bit at the moment.
Yeah. Since you mentioned the overseas players, I've just pulled out the auction notes. I don't know if you followed the auction. Now, at the auction, they retained Butler. They went big on Trent Boult early. Yeah. They went big on Hetmeyer early, 8 crores, 8.5 crores. And then they got Obed McCoy. Half an hour to go for the auction to end. They're coming in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th final lots, and they only have 4 overseas bowlers, 4 overseas players, only 4. In the last half an hour of the auction, they bought Coulter-Nile, Neesham, Rassi van der Dusen, and Daryl Mitchell. And so far, they've got nothing out of them. So I think they've got to pick one. They've got to say either Mitchell or Neesham is going to be our bowler, or they say, okay, it's going to be Obed McCoy, and we'll back up batting and then just stay with them.
Yeah, I think that's just that one little gap that they need to fill. But Harsha, just one final word from you on Ravichandran Ashwin, because I remember a couple of times we've seen him. I think the roles were reversed today. If we have a look at the bowling figures, often it would be Chahal with the 3 wickets and Ashwin with the none for 21 type. Today it was kind of reversed, but Ashwin has been doing this under 20 every single time, whether or not he takes wickets.
And very often. Now, it's something very interesting. I had a chat with him about 2 or 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago. But what does a finger spinner do in a T20 game? Because the leg spinners, at that time, wrist spinners were doing everything. There were virtually no finger spinners playing. What does the wrist spinner do? Because he bowls a wrong gun, he challenges both edges of the bat. He's got a big leg break. He's bowling the wrong gun. He's challenging both edges of the bat. He said even a finger spinner has to challenge both edges of the bat. Otherwise, you've got no chance. If you're only bowling one kind of turn, especially with right-handed batsmen, sometimes short boundaries, you're a candidate for being smacked. So now see what Dooley said about the control for the carom ball. He's getting a lot of those balls as well. Just as Santner bowled that, if you remember. Santner bowled the little in-swing, left-arm in-swingers. Ashwin bowls that when he comes early. So he's got this array, which is to the right-hander, he can get the ball to leave as well as turn. He's got a good straight ball. And the one that he got was Rajat Patidar. I almost got the feeling Patidar was late on the ball. Or did he just play down the wrong line? But, I mean, when do you see an off-spinner just knocking over a stump like that? So he's thinking all the time. And I think that's his benefit. He's thinking all the time. And he's like a kid. When he's not playing, he'll go and play tennis ball cricket somewhere. He'll go and play for the Indigal Dragon somewhere. He'll go and play somewhere where he's trying something. He's just got this fascination for the game.
What a combination. A thinking quizzer and a chess player in tandem, trying to outwit the opposition. Well, Rajasthan have got a couple of
that is what you relate to the most, no, Gautam? That there's a chess player and a quizzer bowling together.
Totally. Why not? Yeah. And that really has stood them in good stead. Unfortunately, we've got to be looking at a few negatives in the opposition. Not that you want to clutch at negatives. You always want to pull out a positive. But today has been, as Harsha said at the start of the show, a game that will probably hurt Bangalore more than even the one where they were just blown away. You put that behind you and say, that's our aberration. Now, after the aberration, what do? This one's a big one, Harsha.
When we said at one point, we said, could that early moment of luck be just what Kohli needed? But in a short innings, Kohli's almost got an inner edge that misses the stumps and is then out. So definitely it's a worry, and he's just not able to get away in the power play. I think Faf was very honest about it up front. He said all players go through this, but the greats find a way back. And we thought the best way, rather than Kohli just sitting there waiting his turn, we thought what was best for him was to come up and open the batting. But I have no idea what Kohli needs to do or what the team needs to do, other than just keep backing him, and one day when he comes good, he'll win you the game. But sometimes it's like being stuck in quicksand, isn't it, Doull? It's like being stuck. The harder you try, the deeper you go in.
Yeah, and I can almost guarantee that he's training harder now. I mean, I don't know because I haven't had any insight into this, but I can almost guarantee that he's spending more times in the nets, or more time in the nets than he might usually do. Probably going to the gym longer and more, because he is desperate to do well. And when you are and have been such a great player, you are desperate, because I mean, you don't need social media telling you that you haven't scored runs. You don't need us telling you that it's been 101 innings now since you scored 100 in any form of cricket. He knows that. He's not stupid. He knows exactly what is going on. He's trying to work it out. And at the moment, he just can't work it out. And when you can't work it out, you're just having a little bit of bad luck along the way. You're Q-ending one. You're getting run out. You're getting a first baller. Things like that will happen. It's how he responds and when he responds, and does he respond? And that's the key. I like the fact that he's at the top of the order. I think that should be the case for the rest of the season. I think they need to back him. I don't know about Maxwell. It's easy to say now because he's coming at 4 tonight. But I think he's more of a 5 in this side. I just wonder how they get him to 5 and who they bat in between times. And yeah, look, it's a poor performance. It's back-to-back poor performances. And this goes back to that graphic we showed earlier about the fact that they, after the aberration, they continue the aberration. They can't find a way to win consistently after a really, really bad performance. I mean, Maxwell's since this year, and then you go to this. This is what I'm talking about. So thanks very much to our techie guys behind the scene. After a really bad performance, look at those losses. Look at the no result and then all the losses. They managed to get 1 win in the middle of 5 losses in 2014. This is what RCB do. This is sadly, this is how they perform. They start off, they give their fans all this hope. They give us all hope. They think, they give Harsha hope that he picks them in the top 2 of the tournament to finish in the top 2. They give everyone hope. And then they just let you down, Harsh. They just let you down.
Why did it take so long for the barb to come?
Not even gently.
But here's something of Virat Kohli. Ordinary players also go through a bad patch and then they find a way out. Someone once told me that the great players are like very finely tuned automobiles. That if one little part goes somewhere, everything seems to go away. Whereas if you have one of the khataras that we have on the road, you just go to someone just hammers it back in shape and you put it back on the road. So I wonder if there's something there, because that game is so finely tuned, and that's what makes them great players. But I agree with Doull. I have no doubt at all that Virat Kohli knows exactly what needs to be done. If there was someone else playing like Kohli would have gone up to him and told him what to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he's trying too hard. I hope he's not believing in the stars, that they are not aligned and so it's happening, because when you're down, you can start believing everything. But just to come back to the other point Doull said about Maxwell being a 5. Now, already they're struggling with a 3. Like every year, RCB struggle with a 3. So this year they've gone with Rajat Patidar back. They didn't buy him in the auction. They've brought him back as a replacement. They've gone back to him at 3. So if Maxwell has to bat at 5, we'll have the same issue. At least last time they had AB batting at 4. who do they go 3-4? So they have no choice but to go Maxwell 4, especially because DK will only bat after 13 overs. So they're in a bit of a soup, even though I backed them to make the playoffs. and Dooley, as I mean, Gautam, you know Dooley well, but I'm talking to all of you guys. You probably see this avatar of Dooley. He can be ridiculously cruel.
Well, because you spent a little more time together in the bubble and at the Combox, I've escaped because I actually picked him to go one better than that. I've tipped them to win the title this year. So
dear, they're just letting you down as well. They just, they just build you up.
It's a tough one to get out of.
They give you belief. They give you belief every year. Oh God, I think I picked them the last 4 years, but and I've not done it this year.
You picked them the last 4 years, Dooley.
Probably.
I mean, you watch the IPL, don't you? And you still pick them off.
Exactly.
Coming back. It's coming back. That's it. One ball outside the off stump, and Dooley's been hit for 4. 2 balls in a row. Oh dear.
No,
anyway,
I think it's the kindness of his heart that he offered me that half volley.
But I think just to sum up the entire the issue that facing them at the moment, just like we said for Rajasthan, I mean, there's that one spot they need to figure out. They're winning games. Now for Bangalore, it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 issues. They've got to fill a few holes, probably not the bowling, much more in the batting. You talked about that number 3 spot. They tried Anuj Rawat. It looked so good to start the season. You thought they'd found their Parthiv Patel for the entire season. A left-hander opener, hard-hitting opener. Do they need to do a rejig with this whole order? Is the answer to give Kohli a little more time up there at the top of the order, or do they need to start changing things very quickly, Harsha?
I have absolutely no idea. I'll be honest. If I tried to give you an answer, I'd be faffing, I'd be filibustering. I have absolutely no idea. With Virat Kohli, because Virat Kohli became great because he understands his game and is a player, a certain kind of player. I cannot relate to that. So I have absolutely no idea, other than just tell Virat Kohli to relax and remind him he's a great player and just keep backing him, make him feel good, keep backing him, and hope that at some point the fine tuning happens. If he was a transistor, I just hit him from the back and we'd get the station back again. How many people know what a transistor is? Guys, I'm talking to all of you. How many people know what a transistor is like and listening to radio programs and then hitting it at the back to get it working again? But honestly, I have no idea. I just think he needs to get out of the bubble, go and live with Sachin, because he's the one player he trusts for a weekend comeback.
But I think interesting that Harsha should mention that, because I relate to the car that you can beat into shape. The transistor, those who know about it, you just slap it and it starts playing again. Then you go to the cassette player and the DVD player. We're gone beyond that as well. Now it's just about uploads and downloads. So I think he's in that era. He's in the era of where we could just upload and download music on this lovely, with just these AirPods on. Now, how do you fix these if they go wrong? Very delicate.
Dooley, have you known great players like that? Did Martin Crowe ever go through something like? I'm just trying to think of the great players you would have known well.
I don't. I mean, Martin was a very complex character as well, and I mean, part of being a great player is being a little bit different. And I don't think I'd get much argument from anyone around the world, any cricketer around the world. So many of the world's great players they've got something about them that makes them, they just tick a little bit differently to others. And it's hard for them to find someone who can relate to them. And that's probably why Virat can relate to Sachin so well, because they're very similar in perhaps the way they go about things. And, and a lot of times you just got to find your own equilibrium, I suppose, and find your own sort of way. And nobody knows what he needs. Only he knows what he needs. And as I say, he'll be training ridiculously hard. But I can't say I ever really saw Martin go through a really bad trough. Not up until the time he decided to retire and he could hardly run. That was probably, his knees had gone and his body had given up on him. He still had the capability, I thought, but his body had given up on him. And that's certainly not the case for Virat. He's still supremely fit and a wonderful athlete.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of memorable catches from him. We've seen him playing the vice captain's role, if you like, to perfection today. just has to get the runs in the bat. And there have been a few innings where it's looked good. The run out came, the unfortunate dismissal came.
Yeah. I'll just tell you one story that Greg Chappell talks about. And Greg Chappell actually wrote when he went through his period when he got 6 ducks against the West Indies, I think. And I think he might have got his 6th or 7th at the Gabba. And as he was coming back, at the old Gabba, you had the visitors' dressing room first and then the home dressing room. Yeah, I think so. Whatever. And as he was going by, Rudy Webster asked him, "Are you watching the ball?" And Greg Chappell, when you went out for a duck, he said, "I gave him a mouthful. I went back, I threw my bat away." And he said, "I just paused." I said, he's telling the truth. He said, "I'm so obsessed with getting that run, getting out of the bat patch. Maybe I'm not watching the ball enough." I don't know whether sometimes we've all been. I mean, I have been in an exam where I was absolutely blank. I had a 4-hour exam, completely blank. The words were coming out of the paper. And we all go blank. I wonder if Virat's going through a phase where he's just blanking. I don't know. I mean, we are like middle class people talking about what millionaires should do.
Well, it's just, I mean, again, since we're relating anecdotes, there's Greg Chappell, Martin Crowe we've talked about. Just the one that comes to mind very briefly for me is Gary Kirsten, when he went through a phase when he actually had hoped that he'd wake up in the morning, read the paper, and find his name not in the 11 for the test match the next day, which was the Boxing Day test match in Durban. Unfortunately, he found his name there, went out and scored 275, highest score by a South African at the time.
But Gary will be the first to admit that he was that kind of batsman rather than the Kohli Lara kind of batsman.
Yeah. But it was just it was a mental thing. I had to battle that. He was an ugly 15 not out overnight, and had a long chat with him on this. And he just said there was something about that overnight that I said, well, maybe I can do it. His father-in-law played a huge role, who was a minister, not the political kind, the other kind, and put things back on track. So maybe it's going to be something totally unorthodox, every pun intended, that'll get Kohli back on track. Points table. We could have this discussion forever. Hopefully, they'll sort it out in their own dressing room. Rajasthan, as we said, net run rate plus the 2 points means they are right on top above the Titans. Hyderabad, Lucknow, and Bangalore, the other teams on 10. But Bangalore's 10 is a little different sheen to it because of 2 back-to-back losses. Could easily have been 14 for all you know. And they'll have to reverse direction of their car and start going in the opposite direction. What do we have coming up next? Yes, it doesn't stop. The action never stops. This is the men in orange who are back again after not a very long break. Hyderabad are taking on the team who have just been relegated to second place. Gujarat Titans at number 2. Hyderabad, not doing too badly after a forgettable start, are going to be playing match number 40 at the Wankhede Stadium. Harsha, I'll come to you first. Looking at the Gujarat Titans, many would have felt, really, at this stage of the tournament, new franchise in second place, not necessarily having any great performances to look back on like some of the other teams. And yet, pretty much as a team, they've been putting the points together.
And you look at their batting, it still looks thin. But somebody or the other is putting enough runs on the board for their bowlers to keep winning it for them. That is the one quality in the top 4. The top 4 sides are the 4 best bowling sides of the tournament. And the other day, Hardik Pandya didn't bowl at all. Rahul Tewatia didn't bowl at all. Both Hardik and Tewatia are virtually playing as pure batsmen. They're playing in the top 6 virtually as pure batsmen. They're getting Miller, who hadn't scored runs for a few years. He's coming back. He's now starting to score runs. But they are winning it with their bowling. And see what they've done. They've gone back to what Mumbai used to do, which is play 2 overseas quicks. There's Ferguson and Alzari Joseph. Alzari can hang around with the bat a little bit, but they're not worried about that. Shami is in fantastic form. So they've got there. Then they've got the bank in Rashid Khan. And then they're finding someone else who bowled the 5. Who bowled
Yash
the
Dayal.
overs last time?
Yash Dayal.
Yash Dayal.
Yeah.
Yash Dayal bowled the overs. So they've packed their side with bowling. You look at that side and say, if Shubman Gill doesn't get it right, who's going to score runs? He hasn't got it right last 3 games, and they're still winning games. So I also think a lot depends on Hardik Pandya, because he's been their standout batsman actually, and he just keeps moving up. He's up to 3 now. He's going to open batting next.
He's done. Manohar's done well as well, though, hasn't he? I mean,
done well.
a guy who sort of, I don't say burst on the scene, but for someone we hadn't heard a lot about, I think he's had a really good part to play as well. You're right though, Hush, they just find a way. They're finding an absolute way. And Tuatia, obviously not bowling much, but he's won them 2 games with the bat. Hardik's winning them games with the bat. And then that bowling attack is, again, it's just superb. You got 3 world-class bowlers in Rashid, Lockie and Mohammad Shami at the moment. Alzari Joseph has certainly got ability. And I've been impressed with Yash Dayal as well. He's just done everything asked of him for the most part. So it's a side that you looked at on paper and you thought, could they? Where do they get their runs from? But Hardik standing up as a skipper, as you said, they found a way to get Miller out of a slump that he'd been in for a long time in IPL cricket. The issue will be around Hardik. Again, I think he probably needs to bowl to complement that side completely, or to complete that side. They could then maybe look at an extra batsman at some stage. But when I interviewed him afterwards, he said it was just cramp, but you just knew it was a groin again. You just knew. And it was just one of those situations where he didn't want people to know that he'd injured himself again. So, will he be back bowling again? Who knows? Let's hope so.
We quoted you on that one, Dooley. You were on field, and I was with Pommy on the show. And Pommy was like, what's happening with Hardik? He said, he's told Dooley it's cramp. And Pommy just went rubbish. That's it. He didn't hold back there. So we had that one weakness, Harsha, the one more spot. Other than Mumbai, are they the one team who have had nothing from their wicketkeeper, particularly with the bat? Either Matthew Wade or Ridhiman Saha.
So now they're looking at whatever they get from the keeper as a plus. So if the keeper gives you 20 runs, wow. If he gives you 15, wow. As long as he's not using up too many deliveries. I expected a little bit more from Matthew Wade, I'll be honest. But Matthew Wade is another. There's a lot of players who do really well in the big bash who struggle in these wickets. The reason I expected a little more was these tracks are really good. So I actually thought Matthew Wade would win them a game at some point with the bat. But now that they're playing Alzari Joseph and Lockie Ferguson, and they're playing Rashid Khan and David Miller, you can see why they have no choice but to play Ridhiman Saha. And they've found a way now, because they have to get both those overseas fast bowlers are quality fast bowlers. So they've got to do that. So really, the only other batsman, Dooley talked about picking another Indian batsman. Their only options are Vijay Shankar, who they've tried many times and said no to, and Gurkirat Singh Mann.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't have another Indian batsman. So they've got to make the most of what this Indian batting lineup is. What they could do, if they wanted, was maybe play another overseas batsman, maybe a Gurbaz.
And Gurbaz can
go
keep.
Back to
Gurbaz can keep.
Yeah, or maybe go, and find another Indian fast bowler. Maybe go back to, if it's turning a bit, maybe try and play Sai Kishore. Didn't they also play the other tall left-hander, Sai Sudarshan?
Yes, they have Sai Sudarshan.
Yeah. So they've tried those, but that's the only other option that they have, because otherwise the two fast bowlers, Alzari Joseph and Lockie Ferguson, is working very well for them.
Yeah, let's go to the opposition. That is Hyderabad. Again, they've been finding ways to win, even with their captain not quite contributing as much as they would have liked, because they've got so many other pluses down the order, right from Abhishek Sharma at the other end, Rahul Tripathi, Nicholas Puran, Aiden Markram. It just keeps coming. And then Harsha, with ball in hand, just when you had contributions from Natarajan, Malik, Bhuvaneshwar, along comes Marco Jansen to say, excuse me, you remember me?
No, he'll say that in Afrikaans. No, but I'd love to know from Dooley the mindset. This Hyderabad team, on paper, is not going to win you a championship, but they are drawing every ounce of what they have, which is what New Zealand have traditionally done. I know they don't like being called as a team that punches above its weight, but traditionally, New Zealand have made the most of what they had. And I just wonder if Williamson is able to do that with this Hyderabad side, because look, Bhuvi started bowling much better. Marco Jansen is bowling much better. Natarajan has come back very strongly. Their bowlers have come back and are doing really well.
Yeah, Nicholas Puran's winning games. Yeah. Aiden Markram is winning games. So that combination through the middle order has been exceptional. I've been so impressed with Markram in particular. But Puran is now taking along he's tagging along. He's following Markram's lead a little bit and holding his wicket. It's another bowling attack that I think when Bhuvi is as he is right now, that is as good as any in the competition. I put this bowling attack up there with the Rajasthan bowling attack for mine. The pace and bounce of Jansen, the genuine raw pace of Umran Malik, the skill of Bhuvi, Natarajan back to his best. They're when Washi's fit, I think that complements their side brilliantly well. Abhishek Sharma, the one area of concern, and I know he's a brilliant captain and such a calm, wonderful guy, but Kane's form is a real concern. Look, it's not good enough at the moment, and he'll know that. But his numbers, he's had one score of real note this year. His numbers haven't been good enough, but they're still winning games. They're getting the best out of Tripathi. It's a side that, as you say, you look at and you think, okay, really good bowling attack. Do they have the capability of chasing 190s, 180s, 190s? That's their test. But at the moment, with their bowling attack, they're not really having to do that.
Yeah, the other thing, Gautam, if you see their last 5 games that they've won chasing, they've won 8, 8, 7, 7, and 9. So they've only lost 2, 2, 3, 3. They only lost 11 wickets in the last 5 games. So there's this player called Shashank Singh.
He hasn't batted yet.
He's been in the side. He hasn't batted. He's been in the side. He hasn't batted.
Has he really?
Yeah. Because they've been winning last 5 games. They won by 8 wickets, 7 wickets, 9 wickets. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll see. I think the real test for them, honestly, will come when they finally lose a toss and get put into bat first. And then we'll see what they're capable of doing something very, very different. It could be tomorrow. It could be in their next game against Gujarat. Unless, of course, Hardik Pandya decides that we've set a trend. We're going to do it again. Win the toss, bat first. Oh, okay. Sunrisers chasing again. But I suspect if that happens, he's definitely going to make them bat first. So lots to look forward to there. Joy factor question. Records to be broken in terms of how quickly this one would be answered. And I'm sure it was answered very quickly. Quick reminder of the question. Robert George, Dylan Willis achieved this unique feat against Sri Lanka in 1983 in that World Cup. Never been repeated in World Cup since. Name the achievement. It's winning the Man of the Match award purely for his captaincy. Purely for his captaincy. He didn't bowl badly that day. He didn't bowl badly, but he didn't get a wicket. It was just about his presence and his captaincy that he was given player of the match.
Yeah. I wonder how we quantify that. I wonder how you quantify captaincy.
Bowling changes. I mean, he's not. He's not going to bat.
Field
placement. That's the only thing.
I think
he's not really
it's just a feeling.
Yeah,
it's just a feeling.
Field
I mean, maybe you just had one adjudicator.
Yeah.
Danny Morrison. Danny, who do you think? Mate. Bob. That's it. Gone. Finished. No arguments. Bob. All right. Who's the winner? Who's the winner today for that? I'm not sure. Suryansh Sethia. You won before. I would have liked to have checked how quickly you got it because I know that everyone would have got this one. It's one of those quiz questions that have done the rounds in the past. But well done to whoever got it. And, of course, for Bob Willis for that unique record. That's all we have from this game. Yet another victory for Rajasthan. They are top of the tree. But we've got lots to look forward to as the team at number 2 takes on the Sunrisers. We'll be there for that. Until then, from Simon, Harsha and myself, it's good night from Cricbuzz Live.